playing card?
A playing card is a piece of specially prepared heavy paper, thin cardboard, plastic-coated paper, cotton paper blend, or thin plastic, marked with distinguishing motifs and used as one of a set for playing card games. Playing cards are typically palm-sized for convenient handling. A complete set of cards is called a pack, UK English, deck, US English, or set, universal. And the subset of cards held at one time by a player during a game is commonly called a hand. A pack of cards may be used for playing a variety of card games, with varying elements of skill and chance, some of which are played for money. Playing cards are also used for illusions, cardistry, building card structures, cartomancy and memory sport. The front, or face of each card carries markings that distinguish it from the other cards in the pack and determine its use under the rules of the game being played. The back of each card is identical for all cards in any particular pack, and usually of a single color or formalized design. Usually every card will be smooth. However, some packs have braille to allow blind people to read the card number and suit. The backs of playing cards are sometimes used for advertising. For most games, the cards are assembled into a pack, and their order is randomized by shuffling.
History. Early history.
Playing cards were invented in Imperial China. They were found in China as early as the 9th century during the Tang dynasty, 618 to 907. The first reference to card games dates from the 9th century, when the collection of Miscellanea at Duang, written by Tang dynasty writer Sui, described Princess Tongchang, daughter of Emperor Yizong of Tang, playing the leaf game in 868 with members of the Wei clan, the family of the princess husband 131. The Song dynasty, 960 to 1279, scholar Orang Xiu, 1007 to 1072, asserted that playing cards and card games existed at least since the mid-Tang dynasty and associated their invention with the simultaneous development of using sheets or pages instead of paper rolls as a writing medium. The first known book on cards called Yazi Jexi was allegedly written by a Tang-era woman, and was commented on by Chinese writers of subsequent dynasties. By the 11th century, playing cards were spread throughout the Asian continent. 309 during the Ming dynasty, 1368 to 1644. Characters from novels such as The Water Margin were widely featured on the faces of playing cards. 132. Ancient Chinese money cards have 4 suits, coins, or cash, strings of coins, which may have been misinterpreted as sticks from crude drawings, myriads, of coins or of strings, and tens of myriads, a myriad is 10,000. These were represented by ideograms, with numerals of 2 to 9 in the first 3 suits and numerals 1 to 9 in the tens of myriads. Wilkinson suggests that the first cards may have been actual paper currency, which were both the tools of gaming and the stakes being played for, as in trading card games. The designs on modern mahjong tiles likely evolved from those earliest playing cards. However, it may be that the first pack of cards ever printed was a Chinese domino pack, in whose cards all 21 combinations of a pair of dice are depicted. In Kitien Lu, a Chinese text redacted in the 11th century, domino cards were printed during the Tang dynasty, contemporary to the first printed books. The Chinese word pai, is used to describe both paper cards and gaming tiles.
Introduction into Europe.
Playing cards first entered Europe in the early 14th century, probably from Mamluk Egypt, with suits, sets of cards with matching designs, very similar to the tarot suits of swords, staves, cups and coins, also known as discs or pentacles, and which are still used in traditional Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese decks. The first documentary evidence is a document written in Vitoria-Gasteiz, now Spain, in 1334. In which the knights of the band are categorically prohibited from playing cards. Their presence is attested in Catalonia in 1371. Wide use of playing cards in Europe can, with some certainty, be traced from 1377 onwards. The Mameluke pack contained 52 cards comprising 4 suits, polo sticks, coins, swords, and cups. Each suit contained 10 spot cards, cards identified by the number of suit symbols or pips they show, and 3 court cards named Malik, King, Naib Malik, Viceroy or Deputy King, and Thani Naib, second or under deputy. The Mamluk court cards showed abstract designs not depicting persons, at least not in any surviving specimens, though they did bear the names of military officers. A complete pack of Mamluk playing cards was discovered by Leo Mayer in the Topkapi Palace, Istanbul, in 1939. This particular complete pack was not made before 1400, but the complete pack was matched to a privately owned fragment dated to the 12th or 13th century. It is not a complete pack, but there are cards of 3 packs of the same style. It is not known whether these cards influenced the design of the Indian cards used for the game of Ganjifa, or whether the Indian cards may have influenced these. Regardless, the Indian cards have many distinctive features. They are round, generally hand-painted with intricate designs, and comprise more than 4 suits, often as many as 32, like a pack in the Deutsches Spielkarten Museum, painted in the Mewar, a city in Rajasthan, between the 18th and 19th century. Packs used to play have from 8 up to 20 suits.
Spread across Europe and early design changes.
In the late 14th century, the use of playing cards spread rapidly throughout Europe. Documents mentioning cards date from 1371 in Spain, 1377 in Switzerland, and 1380 in many locations including Florence and Paris. A 1369 Paris ordinance does not mention cards, but its 1377 update does. In the account books of Johanna, Duchess of Brabant and Wenceslaus I, Duke of Luxembourg, an entry dated May 14, 1379 reads, given to Monsieur and Madame 4 Peters, 2 forms, value 8.5 moutons, wherewith to buy a pack of cards. In his Book of Accounts for 1392 or 1393, Charles or Charbot Poupart, treasurer of the household of Charles VI of France, records payment for the painting of 3 sets of cards. The earliest cards were made by hand, like those designed for Charles VI. This was expensive. Printed woodcut decks appeared in the 15th century. The technique of printing woodcuts to decorate fabric was transferred to printing on paper around 1400 in Christian Europe, very shortly after the first recorded manufacture of paper there, while in Islamic Spain it was much older. The earliest dated European woodcut is 1418. No examples of printed cards from before 1423 survive. But from about 1418 to 1450 professional card makers in Ulm, Nuremberg, and Augsburg created printed decks. Playing cards even competed with devotional images as the most common uses for woodcut in this period. Most early woodcuts of all types were colored after printing either by hand or, from about 1450 onwards, stencils. These 15th century playing cards were probably painted. The master of the playing cards worked in Germany from the 1430s with the newly invented printmaking technique of engraving. Several other important engravers also made cards, including Master Es and Martin Skongor. Engraving was much more expensive than woodcut, and engraved cards must have been relatively unusual. In the 15th century in Europe, the suits of playing cards varied. Typically a pack had 4 suits, although 5 suits were common and other arrangements are also known. In Germany, hearts, Herzrot, bells, schellen, leaves, grun, and acorns, Ichel, became the standard suits and are still used in Eastern and Southeastern German packs today for Skat, Schafkopf, Doppelkopf, and other games. Italian and Spanish cards of the 15th century used swords, batons, or wands, cups, and coins, or rings. The tarot, which included extra trump cards, was invented in Italy in the 15th century. The 4 suits now used in most of the world, spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs, originated in France in about 1480. The trefoil, club, was probably derived from the acorn and the peak, spade, from the leaf of the German suits. The names peak and spade, however, may have derived from the sword of the Italian suits. In England, the French suits were eventually used, although the earliest packs had the Italian suits. Also in the 15th century, Europeans changed the court cards to represent European royalty and attendants, originally king, chevalier, knight, and knave. The original meaning of knave was male child, cf. German Knabe, so in this context the character could represent the prince, son to the king and queen. The meaning servant developed later. In a German pack from the 1440s, queens replace kings in two of the suits as the highest card. Packs of 56 cards containing in each suit a king, queen, knight, and valet, from the French tarot court, were common. Court cards designed in the 16th century in the manufacturing centre of Rouen became the standard design in England, while a Parisian design became standard in France. Both the Parisian and Rouennese court cards were named after historical and mythological heroes and heroines. The Parisian names have become more common in modern use, even with cards of Rouennese design.
Later design changes.
In early games the kings were always the highest card in their suit. However, as early as the late 14th century special significance began to be placed on the nominally lowest card, now called the ace, so that it sometimes became the highest card and the two, or deuce, the lowest. This concept may have been hastened in the late 18th century by the French Revolution, where games began being played ace-high as a symbol of lower classes rising in power above the royalty. The term ace itself comes from a dicing term in Anglo-Norman language, which is itself derived from the Latin as, the smallest unit of coinage. Another dicing term, tray, 3, sometimes shows up in playing card games. Packs with corner and edge indices, that is the value of the card printed at the corner, S, of the card, enabled players to hold their cards close together in a fan with one hand, instead of the two hands previously used. The first such pack known with Latin suits was printed by Infarera and dated 1693, International Playing Card Society Journal 30-1 page 34, but this feature was commonly used only from the end of 18th century. Indices in the Anglo-American deck were used from 1875, when the New York Consolidated Card Company patented the squeezers, the first cards with indices that had a large diffusion. However, the first Anglo-American deck with this innovation was the Salades patent, printed by Samuel Hart in 1864. Before this time, the lowest court card in an English pack was officially termed the knave, but its abbreviation, KN, was too similar to the king, K, and thus this term did not adapt well to indices. However, from the 17th century the knave had often been termed the jack, a term borrowed from the English Renaissance card game All Fours, where the knave of trumps has this name. All Fours was considered a game of the lower classes, so the use of the term jack at one time was considered vulgar. The use of indices, however, encouraged a formal change from knave to jack in English language packs. In other languages, this conflict does not exist. The French tarot deck for instance labels its lowest court card the valet, which is the squire to the knight card, not seen in 52 card packs, as the queen is paired with the king. This name, abbreviated V, is used for modern 52 card packs in the French language. This was followed by the innovation of reversible court cards. This invention is attributed to a French card maker of Agen in 1745. But the French government, which controlled the design of playing cards, prohibited the printing of cards with this innovation. In Central Europe, Trappola cards, Italy, Tarocchino Bolognese, and in Spain the innovation was adopted during the second half of 18th century. In Great Britain the pack with reversible court cards was patented in 1799 by Edmund Ludlow and Anne Wilcox. The Anglo-American pack with this design was printed around 1802 by Thomas Wheeler. Reversible court cards meant that players had no need to turn upside-down court cards right side up. Before this, other players could often get a hint of what other players' hands contained by watching them reverse their cards. This innovation required abandoning some of the design elements of the earlier full-length courts. During the French Revolution, the traditional design of kings, queens, and jacks became liberties, equalities, and fraternities. The radical French government of 1793 and 1794 toppled the old regime, and a good revolutionary would not play with kings or queens, but with the ideals of the revolution at hand. This would ultimately be reversed in 1805 with the rise of Napoleon. The United States introduced the joker into the deck. The stylings of the joker and its function are almost identical to the fool from the original French tarot deck, which had been removed in the transformation to the standard 52-card French pack. It was devised for the game of euchre, which spread from Europe to America beginning shortly after the American Revolutionary War. In euchre, the highest trump card is the jack of the trump suit, called the right bar, or bower. The second highest trump, the left bar, is the jack of the suit of the same color as trumps. The joker was invented c. 1870 as a third trump, the best bower, which ranked higher than the other two bowers. The name of the card is believed to derive from duca, a variant name for euchre.
Current French design.
The most common pack of 52 playing cards in use today includes 13 ranks of each of the 4 French suits, clubs, diamonds, hearts and spades, with reversible row and ace court, or face cards. Each suit includes an ace, depicting a single symbol of its suit, quite large, often only on the ace of spades, a king, queen, and jack, each depicted with a symbol of their suit. And ranks 2 through 10, with each card depicting that number of symbols, pips, of his suit. As well as these 52 cards, commercial packs, decks US, often include between 1 and 4 jokers, most often 2. These jokers are not used in most basic game rules, but have a variety of uses with rule variations, and can simply serve as spares to replace a damaged or lost card.
Sizes and weight.
Modern playing cards are most commonly referred to as either poker or bridge-sized. Nominal dimensions are summarized in the adjacent table. Notwithstanding these generally accepted norms, there is no formal requirement for precise adherence to these dimensions, and minor variations to card lengths and widths within their respective categories are produced by various manufacturers. Other sizes are also available, such as a smaller size, usually 1.75 x 2.625 inches, 44.5 x 66.7 mm for solitaire, tall narrow designs for travel and larger ones for card magic. The thickness and weight of modern playing cards is subject to numerous variables related to their purpose of use and associated material design for durability, stiffness, texture and appearance.
Styling.
Modern playing cards carry index labels on opposite corners so that the card can be identified when held in a fan from left to right, regardless of which of the two narrow edges faces up. These stylings, together with the imagery on the court cards, are sometimes referred to as English, or Anglo-American, and are the most common forms of the French deck. Various alternative stylings include indices at all 4 corners, court indices in different languages, different court imagery, or perhaps novelty stylings. The embellished design and manufacturer's logo commonly displayed on the ace of spades began under the reign of James I of England, who passed a law requiring an insignia on that card as proof of payment of a tax on local manufacture of cards. Until August 4, 1960, packs of playing cards printed and sold in the United Kingdom were liable to tax under the Stamp Act 1765, and the ace of spades carried an indication of the name of the printer and the fact that the tax had been paid. The packs were also sealed with a government duty wrapper. Though specific design elements of the court cards are not relevant to gameplay and many differ between designs, a few elements of the English pattern are notable. The Jack of Spades, Jack of Hearts, and King of Diamonds are drawn in profile, while the rest of the court are shown in full face. These cards are commonly called one-eyed. When deciding which cards are to be made wild in some games, the phrase ace, duce, one-eyed jack, or deuces, aces, one-eyed faces is sometimes used, which means that aces, twos, and the one-eyed jacks are all wild. The King of Hearts is the only king with no moustache, and is also typically shown with a sword behind his head, making him appear to be stabbing himself. This leads to the nickname Suicide King. The axe held by the King of Diamonds is behind his head with the blade facing toward him. He is traditionally armed with an axe while the other three kings are armed with swords, and thus the King of Diamonds is sometimes referred to as the man with the axe. This is the basis of the trump one-eyed jacks and the man with the axe. The Jack of Diamonds is sometimes known as Laughing Boy. The Ace of Spades, unique in its large, ornate spade, is sometimes said to be the death card, and in some games is used as a trump card. The Queen of Spades usually holds a scepter and is sometimes known as the bedpost queen, though more often she is called Black Lady. In many packs, the Queen of Clubs holds a flower. She is thus known as the Flower Queen, though in many playing cards from Germany and Sweden she is depicted with a fan, but this design element is among the most variable. The standard bicycle poker pack depicts all queens with a flower styled according to their suit. There is folklore about whom the court cards represent. For example, the Queen of Hearts is believed by some to be a representation of Elizabeth of York, the Queen Consort of King Henry VII of England, or it is sometimes believed to be a representation of Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII. The United States Playing Card Company suggests that, in the past, the King of Hearts was Charlemagne, the King of Diamonds was Julius Caesar, the King of Clubs was Alexander the Great, and the King of Spades was the biblical King David. See King, playing card. However, the kings, queens, and jacks of Anglo-American designs today do not represent anyone in particular. They stem from designs produced in Rouen before 1516, and, by 1540-67, these Rouen designs show well-executed pictures in the court cards with the typical court costumes of the time. In these early cards, the Jack of Spades, Jack of Hearts, and King of Diamonds are shown from the rear, with their heads turned back over the shoulder so that they're seen in profile. However, the Rouen cards were so badly copied in England that the current designs are gross distortions of the originals. Other oddities such as the lack of a moustache and the King of Hearts also have little significance. The King of Hearts did originally have a moustache, but it was lost by poor copying of the original design. Similarly, the objects carried by the court cards have no significance. They merely differentiate one court card from another and have also become distorted over time. Some decks include additional design elements. Casino blackjack decks may include markings intended for a machine to check the ranks of cards. Many casino decks and solitaire decks have 4 indices instead of the usual 2. Some decks have larger indices, often for use in stud poker games, where being able to read cards from a distance is a benefit and hand sizes are small. Some decks use 4 colors for the suits in order to make it easier to tell them apart. The most common set of colors for poker is black spades, red hearts, blue diamonds and green clubs. Another common color set is borrowed from the German suits and uses green spades, leaves, and yellow diamonds, bells, with red hearts and black clubs. Many modern decks have barcode markings on the edge of the face to enable them to be sorted by machine, for playing duplicate bridge, especially simultaneous events where the same hands may be played at many different venues. When giving the full written name of a specific card, the rank is given first followed by the suit, for example, Ace of Spades. Shorthand notation may list the rank first A, as is typical when discussing poker, or list the suit first, as is typical in listing several cards in bridge, AKQ. Tens may be either abbreviated to T or written as 10.
Piquet.
The Piquet pack is a subset of the French suited 52-card pack, with all values from 2 through 6 in each suit removed. The resulting 32-card pack is notable for its use in a variety of games. A trick-taking game from the 14th century, Piquet, gave the pack its most common name, and the game of the Lot also uses this pack. West German players adopted the pack for the game of Skat. The traditional Skat pack uses German suits. See below. 2 of these packs are used in the game of Bezique.
Pinochle Doppelkopf.
The game of Pinochle, which evolved from the French game Bezique, uses a pack composed of 2 copies of each Anglo-American card with values from 9 through King and Ace. A pack with the same composition, but different card art, is available in Europe for the German game of Doppelkopf, which derived from the game Sheepshead and is related to Skat.
Tarot.
The 78-card tarot pack, and subsets of it, are used for a variety of European trick-taking games. The tarot is distinguished from most other packs by the use of an additional court card, Chevalier or Knight, ranked between Jack, Page and Queen, a separate trump suit of 21 cards, and one Fool, whose role varies according to the specific game. In Europe, the pack is known primarily as a playing card pack. In the UK and latterly the Americas, the tarot pack is primarily known for its use in cartomancy. The trumps and Fool making up the major arcana while the 56 suited cards make up the minor arcana. The origins of the tarot pack are thought to be Italian, with the oldest surviving examples dating from the mid-15th century in Milan, and using the traditional Latin suits of swords, cups, coins and staves, representing the four main classes of feudal society: military, clergy, mercantile trade, and agriculture. It is generally thought that the tarot was invented between 1411 and 1425 by adding trump cards to a deck format that was already popular in Italy as of this period, having been introduced from North Africa in the mid-14th century. The deck spread from Italy to Germanic countries, where the Latin suits evolved into the suits of leaves, or shields, hearts, or roses, bells, and acorns, and a combination of Latin and Germanic suit pictures and names resulted in the French suits of spades, hearts, diamonds and clubs. The trumps originally represented characters and ideals of increasing power, from the magician and high priestess of the 1 and 2 of trumps to the sun, judgment and the world at the high end. Allegorical meanings for each card existed as of the earliest days of the pack, but it wasn't until the late 18th century that the works of Antoine Court de Gebelin made packs based on the Tarot de Marseille popular for divinatory purposes. From this point, the evolution of packs for cartomancy and for gaming diverged. The reading tarots based on the symbolic designs of the Tarot de Marseille, which were extensively modified to produce the widely known Rider-Waite deck, kept the older style of full-length character art, specific character meanings for the 21 trumps, and the use of the Latin suits, although most of the reading tarots in use today derive from the French Tarot de Marseille. On the other hand, playing tarots, especially those of France and the Germanic regions, had by the end of the 19th century evolved into a form more resembling the modern playing card pack, with corner indices and easily identifiable number and court cards. The use of the traditional characters cards for the trumps was largely discarded in favor of more whimsical scenes. The Tarot Nouveau is an example of the current style of playing tarot, though the artwork and design of this pack can be traced back to the 1890s. The Italian and Spanish tarocchi packs, however, have largely kept the traditional character identifications of each trump, as well as the Latin suits, though these packs are used almost exclusively for gaming. Tarocco Bolognese and Tarocco Piedmontese are examples of Italian suited playing tarot packs. Sets consisting of 56 tarot playing cards have 14 cards of each suit: clubs, diamonds, hearts and spades.
Italian.
Italian playing cards most commonly consist of a pack of 40 cards, 4 suits going 1 to 7 plus 3 face cards, and are used for playing Italian regional games such as Scopa or Briscola. 52, or more rarely 36, card sets are also found in the north. Since these cards first appeared in the late 14th century when each region in Italy was a separately ruled country, there is no official Italian pattern. There are 16 official regional patterns in use in different parts of the country, about one per region. These 16 patterns are split amongst 4 groups. Northern Italian suits: Triestan, Chivigian, Trentine, Primera Bolognese, Bergamasche, Brescian; Spanish-like suits: Napolitane, Sarde, Romagno, Sicilian, Psentine; French suits: Genovese, Lombard or Milanese, Toscan, Piemtese; German suits: Silese Bersi used in South Tyrol. In Northern Italian suits and Spanish-like suits the suits are coins, sometimes suns or sunbursts, denari in Italian, swords, spade, cups, cop, and clubs, sometimes batons bastoni, and each suit contains an ace, or 1, numbers 2 through 7, and 3 face cards. The face cards are Re, King, the highest valued, a man standing, wearing a crown; Cavallo, lit horse, a man sitting on a horse/or donna, lit woman from Latin domina equals mistress, a standing woman with a crown; Fanti, lit infantry soldier, a younger figure standing, without a crown. The Spanish-like suit knave, Fanti, the lowest face card, is depicted as a woman, and is sometimes referred to as donna like the next higher face card of the French suit pack. This, when coupled with the French usage, which puts a queen, also called donna, woman, in Italian and not regina, queen, as the mid-valued face card, can very occasionally lead to a swap of the value of the French suit donna, or more rarely of the international card queen, and the knave, or jack. Unlike Anglo-American cards, some Italian cards do not have any numbers, or letters, identifying their value. The card's value is determined by identifying the face card or counting the number of suit characters.
Spanish.
The traditional Spanish pack, referred to as Baraja Española in Spanish, uses Latin suit symbols. Being a Latin-suited deck, like the Italian deck, it is organized into 4 palos, suits, that closely match those of the Italian-suited tarot deck: oros, golds, or coins; capor, beakers or cups; espadas, swords; and bastos, batons or clubs. Certain packs include 2 comodines, jokers, as well. The cards, cartas in Spanish, are all numbered, but unlike in the standard Anglo-French pack, the card numbered 10 is the first of the court cards, instead of a card depicting 10 coins, cups, swords, batons. So each suit has only 12 cards. The 3 court or face cards in each suit are as follows: La Sota, the knave, or jack, numbered 10 and equivalent to the Anglo-French card J; El Caballo, the horse, horseman, knight or cavalier, numbered 11 and used instead of the Anglo-French card Q. Note the tarot packs have both a queen and a knight of each suit, while the Anglo-French pack uses the former, and the Spanish pack uses the latter, and finally El Rey, the king, numbered 12 and equivalent to the Anglo-French card K. However, most Spanish games involve 40-card packs, with the 8s and 9s removed, similar to the standard Italian pack. The box that goes around the figure has a mark to distinguish the suit without showing all of your cards. The cups have 1 interruption, the swords 2, the clubs 3, and the gold none. This mark is called La Pinta, and gave rise to the expression, La conocí por la pinta, I knew him by his markings. The baraja have been widely considered to be part of the occult in many Latin American countries, yet they continue to be used widely for card games and gambling, especially in Spain, which does not use the Anglo-French pack. Among other places, the baraja have appeared in 100 Years of Solitude and other Hispanic and Latin American literature. The Spanish pack is used not only in Spain, but also in other countries where Spain maintained an influence, for example, Morocco, Mexico, Chile, Argentina and most of Hispanic America, the Philippines and Puerto Rico. 1. Among the games played with this pack are, El Mas, a vine game of Basque origin; La Brisca, La Poca, El Tute, with many variations; El Guinote, La Escoba del Quince, a trick-taking game; El Julep, El Cinquillo, La Siete y Media, La Mona, El Truque, or Truco; El Caju, a matching game from the Philippines; El Jaman, El Tonto, El Hijopata, El Mentiroso, El Cuco, Las Parejas and Las Cuarenta, a fishing game, the national card game of Ecuador. In Spain, games of Anglo-American origin such as poker and blackjack are played with the international 52-card pack, which is called a baraja de poker.
Switzerland.
In Switzerland, the national game is Jas. It is played with packs of 36 cards. West of the Brunic-Napfrous line, a French-style 36-card pack is used, with numbers from 6 to 10, jacks, queens, kings and aces. The same kind of pack is used in Graubünden and in parts of Thurgau. In central Switzerland, Zurich, Schaffhausen and eastern Switzerland, The prevalent pack consists of 36 playing cards with the following suits: roses, bells, acorns and shields, in German, Rosen, Schellen, Hel und Schilten. The ranks of the alternate pack, from low to high, are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, banner, under, lower jack, ober, higher jack, king and ace.
German.
German suits may have different appearances. Many Eastern and Southern Germans, Bavarians, Austrians, South Tyroleans, etc. prefer packs with hearts, bells, leaves, and acorns, for hearts, diamonds, spades, and clubs, as mentioned above. In the game Skat, East German players used the German pack, while players in Western Germany mainly used the French pack. After the reunification, a compromise pack was created for official Skat tournaments, with French symbols but German colors, green spades and yellow diamonds.
Central European.
The cards of Hungary, Slovenia, the Czech Republic, Northern Croatia, Slovakia, Transylvania, Transcarpathia in Ukraine, and Vojvodina in Serbia use the same suits, hearts, bells, leaves and acorns, as the cards of southern and eastern German regions. They usually have a pack of 32 or 36 cards. The numbering includes VII, 8, 9, X, under, over, king and ace. Some variations with 36 cards have also the number 6. The 6 in bells also has the function like a joker in some games, and it is named Welly or Welly. These cards are illustrated with a special picture series that was born in the times before the Hungarian Revolution of 1848, when revolutionary movements were awakening all over in Europe. The aces show the 4 seasons: the ace of hearts is spring, the ace of bells is summer, the ace of leaves is autumn and the ace of acorns is winter. The characters of the under and over cards were taken from the drama William Tell, the legendary Swiss freedom fighter, written by Friedrich Schiller in 1804, which was shown at Kolozsvár, Hungary, now Cluj-Napoca, Romania, in 1827. It was long believed that the card was invented in Vienna at the card painting workshop of Ferdinand Piatnik. However, in 1974 the very first pack was found in an English private collection, and it has shown the name of the inventor and creator of deck as Joseph Schneider, a master card painter at Pest, and the date of its creation as 1837. Had he not chosen the Swiss characters of Schiller's play, had he chosen Hungarian heroes or freedom fighters, his pack of cards would never have made it into distribution, due to the heavy censorship of the government at the time. Interestingly, although the characters on the cards are Swiss, these cards are unknown in Switzerland. Bavarian playing cards, Czech, Dvoufasy karty, are also widespread in the Czech Republic. Games that are played with this pack in Hungary include Skat, Ulti, also known as Ultimo, Snapsa, or 66, Cirrhoses, Fire, Preference, Macau, Lorem, Pyros Patchzi, Red Paw, Pyros Papux, Red Slipper, and Otleders. In Croatia, Slovenia, Bulgaria, and Armenia these cards are sometimes used for a game called Bilot. In Czech Republic these cards are called Mariaski or Marisov karty, both means cards for Marias, or sometimes Piketty. The cards are used for almost all card games in Czech lands, including the Marias and games like PRSI, Switch, FERBL, CS, or Oko, slightly different Czech version of blackjack.
Russia.
In Russia and many countries of the former USSR, the Russian 36-card pack is the most common one. Its numbering includes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, valet, jack, dama, queen, Kirill, king, and deuce, ace. The suits are identical to French ones. This pack is used for several Russian card games, such as Durak and Ochko, a variant of blackjack. Another common Russian pack is the Preference pack, which is used for the card game of the same name. It begins with sevens and is identical to the Piquet pack.
East Asia.
The standard 52-card pack is commonly known as a poker deck in Taiwan, China, and South Korea. Alternatively, a more common name in Japan and Korea for the same deck is trump, Torampu, Triompa respectively, which comes from the term trump card. These cards are most often used for baccarat and blackjack in casinos, or deciding the order of play or challenge in games of billiards. Poker itself and other Western games are relatively unknown. However, there do exist East Asian games using the poker deck, such as Daifuo and 210 Jack. Home and online card games in East Asia such as Koi Koi and Go Stop use a karata, such as Hanafuda, Utagarata or Kabufuda deck in Japan, and the equivalent Wachu deck in Korea.
Mongolia.
Mongolia's Mushigand uses a 32-card pack in 4 suits with the ranks in order from lowest to highest being 7, 8, 9, 10, Bull, Jack, Khatan, Queen, Noyan, King, and Tamga, Ace. For 2 or 5 players, all 32 cards are used, but for 3 players, only 24 are used, and for 4 players, 28. The game starts with each player at a score of 15. The object of each round is to win as many tricks as possible. If a player wins no tricks, his score is increased by 5. The player who first reaches 0 points or less wins the game.
India.
Card games in India include Indian Rummy, Bluff, 28, and Bridge. In the Konkan region, on the western coastline of the Indian peninsula, an unusual pack of playing cards was in vogue from around the 14th century until about 1900 and is still available in some art and craft shops in the region. This was called Ganjirfa, pronounced Gunjay-4. It originated in Persia and brought in India by Mughals. Ganjirfa consists of 10 houses, each containing 12 cards, which are circular in shape. Those cards used to be made of parchment or a cardboard-like substance. The highest card value in each house is one of the Dasavatar, meaning incarnation of the Almighty. Nowadays, people in India mostly use standard, 52-card pack, playing cards.
Accessible playing cards.
Playing cards have been adapted for use by the visually impaired by the inclusion of large print and/or braille characters as part of the card. In addition to increasing the size of the suit symbol and the denomination text, large print cards commonly reduce the visual complexity of the images for simpler identification. They may also omit the patterns of pips in favor of one large pip to identify suit. Oversized cards are also produced. These can assist with ease of handling and to allow for larger text. No universal standards for Braille playing cards exist. There are many national and producer variations. In most cases each card is marked with 2 Braille characters in the same location as the normal corner markings. The 2 characters can appear in either vertical, 1 character below another, or horizontal, 2 characters side by side. In either case one character identifies the card suit and the other the card denomination. 1 for ace, 2 through 9 for the numbered cards, X or the letter O for 10, J for jack, Q for queen, K for king. The suits are variously marked using D for diamond, S for spade, C or X for club and H or K for heart.
Symbols in Unicode.
The Unicode standard for text encoding on computers defines 8 characters for card suits in the miscellaneous symbols block, at U+2660-2667. Unicode 6.0 adds a unified pack for minor arcana tarot and the 52 cards of the modern French pack, with 4 knights, together with a character for playing card back, and 2 for black and white, or red, jokers in the block U+1 FOAO-1 FOFF. The complete major arcana may be added at a later time.
Production techniques.
The typical production process for a new pack starts with the choice between the most suitable material, cardstock or plastic. Playing cards made from plastic, polyvinyl chloride, will last longer as compared to paper playing cards. Cards are printed on unique sheets that undergo a varnishing procedure in order to enhance the brightness and glow of the colors printed on the cards, as well as to increase their durability. In today's market, some high-quality products are available. There are some specific treatments on card surfaces, such as calendar and linen finishing, that guarantee performance for either professional or domestic use. The cards are printed on sheets, which are cut and arranged in bands, vertical stripes, before undergoing a cutting operation that cuts out the individual cards. After assembling the new decks, they pass through the corner rounding process that will confer the final outline, the typical rectangular playing card shape. Finally, each pack is wrapped in cellophane, inserted in its case and is ready for the final distribution.